Okay, so before we kickstart, I'm going to allow our director Ruth to give us a few words before we commence. And I introduced our wonderful host, Muli Mwindi, who we're very excited to have. So, Ruth, take it away. Okay, thank you so much, Alinda. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ruth, as Alinda mentioned, and I'm the director of Tukue Pamoja. Karibuni sana. Welcome and thank you so much for being here. This webinar kicks off Tukue Pamoja's monthly Mkutano series, where each month we bring in a new theme and speaker to help you level up in life with valuable insights, strategies, and inspiration. For those who are new here, Tukue Pamoja is a youth-driven organization committed to amplifying African voices and equipping young people across the continent with the knowledge, resources, and opportunities they need to reach their full potential and contribute meaningfully to Africa's progress. We do this through edifying content creation, curated weekly opportunities, resource sharing, empowering events like this, and also including our monthly Mizaha, a more fun and laid back space where we connect, gap, and laugh. And we also have our supportive WhatsApp community with over 500 young people registered from across the continent, connecting, supporting, and learning from each other. And quite excitingly, we'll soon be launching our biggest project yet, our scholarship fund for African youth who have faced circumstances that have hindered their educational journeys. If you'd like to be part of our initiatives in any capacity, feel free to reach out to me directly or connect with us on Instagram at kwe.pamoja. I'll also drop my contact details in the chat. This event in particular is designed to help you develop the habits and mindset needed to stay committed to your goals and transform ambition into meaningful, lasting achievement. Because this year, 2025, we are achieving our goals by fire, by force. Can I get an amen in the chat? So grab a notebook and a pen. Muli will be dropping gems shortly you won't want to forget. I'd also encourage you all to be actively engaged. Don't hold back in the Q&A so you can make the most of this experience. That is all from me. Thank you all for being here again. Now back over to you, Linda. Thank you so much, Ruth. Very well said. It's exceptional to hear about your vision and the exciting things we have going on. So now, as we segue into the event, welcome again to Beyond the Hype, sustaining your goals all year long. So now we're at the 6th of February, and we're at that point where, okay, the Jan hype is over, all the New Year's resolutions you had, you're kind of at a point where it's like, can I keep going? If so, what do I do at this point? And who better to take us on by the purpose, take on this topic than the purpose-driven leader and creative visionary himself, Muli Mwindi. Today, Muli is here with us. He is passionate about storytelling and making a passionate impact. He's the author of The Narrow Path, which articulates that purpose knows no age and inspires readers to embrace their journey. He's the founder of Sight and Spirit, which is a brand that blends vision, faith, and empowerment to help people embrace their potential. Alongside this, he runs the Motaji tribe of dreamers and network and continues to inspire people through events, fashion, and many more. Thank you so much for being here, Wendy. We look forward to hearing from you. I will now hand over the mic to you, and you can give us a few words for the next 10 minutes or so, talking about the topic, sharing who you are, and sharing how insights you have into this particular topic.
Hi guys. First of all, thank you for the warm welcome. This is a beautiful platform. I think I have to give you guys your kudos because Then generally on the other side of being able to create a community is not easy. So big ups to you guys. You've done really well, and 500 in your community all over the world. That is not a small feat. So you guys need your flowers, So I am excited to be here. I just want to start off just getting straight into the meat and potatoes of this. For me, when it comes to this topic of sustaining your goals all year round, as Alinda beautifully said, it's now getting to a point where January is over, things are getting real, the year is beginning. One thing that I want to be able to help everyone leave with, because I'm very practical in how I like to teach and how I like to share certain things that I've learned, because all of us are exposed to the internet. We understand all the gurus that have all the self-help advice, how to tackle your goals, what to do, all these things. So I mean, I'm around community of people who are high individuals in terms of the way they think and articulate themselves. So I'm not going to give you guys things that you don't already know, but I'll give you a lens in which I think will help you navigate the rest of the year effectively. One thing you need to ask yourself is, because I just finished doing a vision board workshop. I was speaking in front of a community of another community similar to you guys, and I was sharing with them one thing. As long as they were doing the vision boards and creating stuff, but one thing I want to give you guys with, when you're doing your vision boards, leave the question or find out how you can say the why. So identify your why. The why is so important, because sometimes when you're creating goals, as this topic is something that I saw and I immediately jumped on, because I love the fact that we're talking about things beyond the hype. Because some people set goals that are so far out of their reach and are not even in alignment with their person. So being able to recognize and identify your why from the get-go is what is the number one thing genuinely that will help you sustain your goals throughout the year. That's genuinely one thing that you should do. So whether you have a visual image, above it, put your why. That's something that, if you have a notebook, just write that down. If you have a vision board and you have a visual image of what you want to be, of the things you want to attain in your life, just ask yourself why. Because when it goes to shove, there's few things that will be able to help you maintain that flame. Because for me, with the things that I've done in my short career, because I've just only begun, I've been familiar with the flame of an idea. When you catch an idea and you're like, okay, bet, let's run with this. Shortly, as days go by, weeks go by, months go by, you start seeing the flame slowly just diminish, diminish, and diminish. And so, one thing that you need to be able to do is effectively address your mindset, and two things: accountability and your environment. Because once you effectively set up systems that will help you be accountable, and an environment of people with the same mindset as you, it will be so much more easier to be able to navigate your goals effectively. So right now with the Side and Spirit brand, I just added, so this year for me, my goal was to delegate people into the various brands that I've created. And because there's only so much you can do by yourself. And if you're a leader in whatever capacity you're leading here today, you realize how difficult it is to do things on your own, and how easy it is to burn out. Because especially when you're talking about high level topics and deep things, you're emptying yourself. So if you've not set up a system of people around you that are able to feed your energy, fuel back your wisdom, encourage you, and keep things going even as you burn out. Because burnout, let me not lie, burnout is something that can happen, but it's also very easy to navigate it if you've set the right systems in check. And systems, the two systems I'm talking about here is environment accountability. Because let's say you have a goal of, I don't know, getting in shape today, and you want to, let's say, sustain, because let me be honest, with my fitness journey, it's very easy to get in shape with my type of body, but it's also very easy to lose it. If I decide to lose myself for 2 weeks, I can lose myself and become overweight. And I'm seeing people like Arnold, he was one of my strength and conditioning coaches for 2 years. And man, the journey we've gone together is definitely, it needs its own topic. But one thing that has definitely helped me is being able to know that once you set a goal, okay, that's fine, right? But have you set systems enough to be able to meet those short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals? Because goals are very different. The world of goals is very diverse. because you need to approach your short-term goals with a different you. You need to approach your midterm goals with a different you and your long-term goals with a different you. And with a different you just means you have to have a different approach and strategy to your short-term, midterm, and long-term goals. Because my approach to my long-term goals, which one of my long-term goals, I would say this is a midterm goal, is to be able to mentor and lead 500 people by the age of 25. I'm currently 23. And when I say 500 people, I'm talking about like one-on-one coaching. And these are people that I don't just coach to feel good, but equip them through understanding themselves, understanding their voice, understanding their own personal brands, because that's something that I do on the side is I help people elevate their personal brands. And I've gotten to a place now with my own personal brand because I have Muli Windy, which is now the brand that is being on the show today, and then I have Motaji. And one thing that I've as I've grown is I wanted to be able to articulate my brands in a way that a child could understand it. Be so simple with how who I am and what people will say about me. Alinda said such an amazing work. I'm like, hey, those accolades are amazing. But to me, I want to be able to help someone understand who I am in three things. My goal is to inspire, enlighten, and transform. And that's in the personal brand. But to corporates and to now the speaking sector, is I want to inspire creativity, elevate people's brands, and transform lives. So already I've set apart how to navigate each dimension of myself based on tackling different goals. Because I had a goal this year to be able to be, I think I said for the first 2 months to have four speaking engagements. So far, I've already achieved that goal. And as of next week, I already have two more speaking engagements lined up. Where these engagements are coming from, I don't know. But once you set that goal, I think you start to vibrate in the frequency of the person you will become. Because goals are not just about just knocking things off the list, but it's a beautiful thing when you're able to see the person you're becoming throughout that process of achieving a goal. Because I think when you become the person that wants to be in shape, you realize I shouldn't be eating as much sugary sweets and treats. I should be controlling how much food I'm eating. So those are things that are no-brainers to be able to achieve your goal. They'll come with sacrifice, 100%. But if you are definitely determined to have that goal, it's very important for you to be able to let those sacrifices govern how you will achieve that. So I will just close on this accountability, environments, and starting with your why and connecting with your why and giving yourself a visual image, the visual image you put in your vision board. On top of it or below it, ask yourself why, because that why it will continuously guide your intention. It will guide you through the rough situations, the rough moments and seasons of life, and make sure that you know how to effectively govern yourself when you're tackling the short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals that you set out for yourself. And if you have these things, you'll definitely be equipped to sustain your goals all year long. And one thing that I do want to end on a note is learn to be more hungry than full. Because goals, once they're attained, you will feel very much a sense of, is this actually it? You know, especially if you're a high achiever and you're an ambitious person. Like I'm sure all of us here have that feeling, and I've experienced that before. We get to the point where we're like, yeah, I thought I would feel way more fulfilled after I achieved this goal, but I'm not feeling as complete and as fulfilled within myself. So you always have to learn to be more hungry than to be more full. And that's in a physical and emotional sense. Imagine throughout your day, you're always on a full stomach. What are you gonna achieve? You always feel like sleeping. So there's ways to target this set of systems that you build and the lifestyle that you build for yourself and achieving your goals. And I hope this has helped someone. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Muli. That was brilliant. I love how you talked about it in a very formulaic way, like create systems, create ways to hold you accountable, but also to paint pictures of what you want to do. So one thing I picked up on as you were speaking is how you talked about your goal to get four speaking engagements, and you've already hit it, and that's brilliant. And you have a goal to get two more, and you said you don't know how that's going to happen. How do you sit in the I don't know, where it's like you have these goals, but it's like you're kind of at a stage where you can't even really put together how exactly you're going to go there, but you're going to get there. Because that can be very demoralizing for a lot of people to not have like a path, a direct step, next step to take. How do you find how do you find comfort in that, and how do you navigate that kind of I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I'm gonna get there?
Right. That's a beautiful question. First thing I'd say is being able to know that if you've not effectively dealt with your preparation stage, I talk about this a lot in my community, is there's a preparation stage before you get to the place where you can now actually be positioned to receive those type of opportunities that will help you fulfill your goal. So for me, I'm very practical. If I have a dream of, let's say, being, or I have a goal of being one of the most influential global speakers, and I myself do not practice speaking, let's say even speaking to myself in the mirror, or speaking to someone, or speaking to myself on a phone, how am I going to ever attain or position myself or even have those opportunities come to me? So it's all about positioning yourself through that season of not knowing how it's going to happen. And if you position yourself the right way, one way or the other, those things will come to you. Because one thing that I talk about, even this is now another topic, but in the world of metaphysics, they believe as within, so without. Basically, your internal world shapes your external reality. So sometimes we're in a vibrational frequency that is not in alignment with what we want to expect or what we want to receive. So, for example, to make it very simple, is you want to be in a healthy relationship with someone, with a partner, or a future husband or wife, but yet you within yourself, you have such a negative outlook on relationships. You're not effectively facing your own traumas and your problems. How are you going to eventually attract or position yourself to be able to have a healthy relationship? It's only until you learn to position yourself and deal with the preparation stage effectively that you'll be comfortable in that season of I don't know how this happened. Because I myself, to an extent, the things that I put out online, I attract a certain type of tribe and crowd because I know where I want to go. And I know that with my goals, I have to speak about a specific thing for a specific amount of time before now the impact spreads to a specific global stage. Because you have to be comfortable with the seasons of life. To not make this such a long answer, the seasons of life helps you basically know what season you're in, what to do in that season. Because if you're in a season where, for example, anyone who's an athlete, if you have let's say, I'll even use the MMA, anyone who's a fighter, they have seasons of separating themselves from the normal crowd or people, their friends, and they go to camp for, let's say, 2, 3, 4 months. And during that camp, they really train hard, restrict themselves, limit their diets because they know we have a goal to win a specific fight. We have a goal to win something, and we have to prepare effectively and position ourselves for more greater things. So practically in your life, view it that way, is learn how to deal with the preparation stage and maximize that stage, and you have more peace in the season of I don't know how this is gonna come.
Perfect, perfect. So preparation, positioning, and like tuning yourself to the right kind of frequency. Um, so as who you are today seems like you're very goal oriented and you know what you want and when you want it, right? But I can't say that people who are like that now have always been like that. What do you have to say to someone who is currently at a point where like they want to be that structured, driven person, but they don't know where to start? Like, how do you even set these goals? Where do you start? What's the starting point for someone who is demoralized at this stage and is just frustrated with I think there's this goal setting culture constantly being bombarded with self-development and all this and cause a lot of burnout, which I think you've previously mentioned. So how do you advise that person and how do you advise the person starting from ground zero? Where do they start? How do they become more like Muli?
I mean, the questions are so amazing. I mean, kudos to you. I think one thing that I always say, I can see one of my very first, I would even say in the corporate with clients, but to him is like my spiritual son because he's called Buku because the man he is today, like I get so inspired when I see him and see the things he's doing. Because if we didn't have that initial season where we were working very closely together, and we were just pouring. I was more of pouring into him some of the things that I've said today, but on a deeper scale. he would have never been in the positions he's in today. And that's something I'm not saying to brag or to be braggadocious, but it's to be able to know that I'm speaking from a place where I've actually seen insane results from people first close to me. And so when you're on that journey of now being curious of where to start, I always say it's important to separate yourself. Like for me, I had seasons where I was alone on my ones. There was no one, no distractions. First of all, I was in the US and I was in Pennsylvania, an all boys school called Kiski, and it was just a sports school for guys who were just athletes from all over the world. So you can imagine there was literally zero distractions for me there. And that to me was a season of so much preparation and so much growth because I milked the hell out of that season. And I made sure that with all the time I'm getting to myself, I'm investing in books, I'm investing in teachings, I'm investing in a lot of things that will help me understand broader perspectives of life. For the first thing I'll say to anyone is you need to invest in making your perspective of life bigger than just the things you see on TikTok or Instagram. Because if your daily source of news is TikTok and you literally just go on TikTok and mirror that back to the people you love or your friends, without even testing its truth or without going to the full scope of seeing both ends of the spectrum of truth, because truth is, it can be, there's one-sided truth and then there's truth on both sides of the spectrum. So it's up to you as a thought, as anyone who's a thought intelligent person with their thinking, it's up to you to do the research and go to the full extent of investing in topics that pique your curiosity. For me, it was spirituality, it was understanding myself. And in the world of spirituality, there's this topic known as know thyself. And once you know yourself, you know your gifts, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you're very self aware to understand what fields are your strengths and what fields would definitely see you be successful. For example, if you're a curious person, you just want to know things. You have the ability to be a great podcaster or an interviewee or someone who runs a community. Being curious is one of the greatest gifts you can ever have. And secondly, so I don't want to go too deep into that. That can be for another day, but it's just basically identifying your curiosity, identifying the things that pull you with excitement in the initial stages, because you can use that fuel, the fuel of frustration and anger and this is not happening, to your benefit. Like if you use that fuel, because I used fuel as I used pain as fuel. I had the pain of heartbreak, and I'm sure everyone here has experienced that. And I decided to channel that to becoming a better version of myself. And as a man and as a woman, the best thing you can do is be in the best shape of your life, because through just being in the best shape, your mental becomes so much more clearer. You're able to say, okay, if I've gone through the fire and wrath of putting myself through physical exercise and I've survived, really there's not much that can put me through a pit. So it's very much putting yourself through situations. I know it's not necessarily tickling to the ears, but it's helping someone understand that sometimes your blessings and your success and your breakthroughs on the other side of your discomfort. So that's just what I wanted to say to answer that question.
Yeah, no, that sounds very real. I think a lot of people don't want to talk about like that period of isolation, of self-development, where it's just like all you can do is invest in yourself. And it's not cute, it's not appealing, but it's necessary. So I think this is going to be my last question because before I open up the floor. So my question for you is seeing that you've done multiple things, whether it's the book, whether it's the platforms you have, whether you're a thought leader, whatever you're doing, how do you know when is the right time? How do you know what to say yes to in terms of your goals? And how do you know when is the right time to deviate from this goal, right? Because what I've come to understand is that many people try many different things at once, especially now as we're young and we're trying to do different things. How do you know when it's time to say no to a goal? How do you know when it's time to redirect and rethink the direction that you've been taking?
Yeah. Again, an amazing question. I think first thing is knowing yourself and knowing what season of life you're in. That I'll go back to that because for me right now, I can say I've turned down 4 speaking engagements, 3 podcasts, and 1 event. And it's just because it wasn't in alignment with where I'm going. It wasn't in alignment with who I am. Sometimes when you're starting off, you can easily just say yes to everything. but being sensitive and being spiritual to know who is in alignment with your path. And certain collaborations can destroy you, certain collaborations can definitely make you. So it's very important to know where you are valued and where people see you for you rather than what you can give them. So in in summary, it's very pivotal to be sensitive to your world within. And that's why the book, The Narrow Path, Mastering the Art of Awareness and Unlocking the Eternal Treasures Within, because everyone has eternity within. It's even in the scriptures. If you believe in the Bible or not, it's a reality that whoever believes in truth will stumble upon. Is we have such a whole world within us that guides us, as most of us are familiar with our intuition. And so women are very strong with this. They're so sensitive when something is right or something is wrong, or when I should jump on this or I shouldn't. Men, we're not too sensitive, but we can be if we're under the guidance of the right person. But it's so important to know that within yourself, some opportunities, especially when you're building yourself, some opportunities that come to you are not necessarily big enough. You can't handle it in that situation. So in your career, in your journey, or whatever you're doing, you have to set a standard within yourself, and that standard is what you know, or not no one else knows. That's something that I live by and I govern. Is I've caught a vision of where I'm going, and that vision is not from riding upon the backs of people who have been there before me. I love to create with people who are in the same journey as me, because there's a beauty in growing with community, and all the realms of which the society we live in will be shaped and featured in the future. So I love that. And I think a lot of young people look to older people. I get asked this question, how do I pick the right mentor? And I'm like, mentors should be the ones choosing you based on your platform, based on where you're going. For me, I prayed, I asked God, there's no voices out there that's, first of all, genuine, like genuinely have pure hearts, that don't want to just lead someone into wasting their time, who are practical and who can actually work with you and are not prideful. For there are some people who are in places of power and positions that they will never help you because, first of all, they don't see value in you. So it's being able to see people beyond just their current state and see into their future. So that's something that I have a strength in, is I help people see beyond their limits, because most of the times we can see what someone else is carrying, but we can't see what we're carrying because we have a blind eye to ourselves. And that's where the comparison trap comes in for so many young people. So I just wanted to leave that nugget with that question. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, that's perfect. No, I really love that. I think your responses have been well thought out and also very nuanced. I feel like we're getting multiple answers within just one. So now moving on, I'm going to ask everyone in the call who has questions, either type your questions in the chat or raise your hand, and then the host will unmute you. I think our host herself was the first person to raise her hand. Anuna, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I don't know if this counts as like, yeah, but yeah, I was the first to raise my hand. I had a question specifically, and first of all, thank you, Muli, for giving your time to join us. It's been really
Appreciate
good
it.
to you. I had a question on purpose versus things that you're good at, because I think it's very easy, especially in this day and age, to do a bunch of things. And if you're doing things pretty much okay, it's very hard to differentiate what is actually like, why are you on this earth? Like, what are you actually supposed to move towards? So how would you differentiate the two things?
So I say purpose knows no age, but it knows the postures of the heart. So what that means is you can you can be 20 and know what it is that you're supposed to do on this earth. But then, on the other side of the spectrum, there's older people who are still trying to figure out what it is that they're supposed to do. Because many of us have gone through school, we've gone to uni, we've done this, we have now jobs, but we're not fulfilled within ourselves. And I can really see some people here walking their purpose, like guys like Alinda. You guys, your community is bigger than yourself. I think purpose comes in when you start serving others in a capacity that brings you fulfillment and brings you joy and peace. Because we have so many things you can do, like so many opportunities in this world, And again, you said something that's very profound. You can be good at something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's your purpose. Someone like Buku is a very good, I'm picking on him because I know him. He's a very good singer and he's also a very good speaker. If he avenues into, let's say, sports, he may be good at sports, but is he going to have as much impact in sports? So for me, I see purpose through the lens of impact. Because if you see things from the lens of the divine perspective, I think divinity has a huge aspect into how we channel our purposes. If it's not given from within you, and I had this podcast I was doing this week on Tuesday, and I told the guest, she was telling me, I was just reading some comments and getting feedback from my people, and it was so good. I was being fueled. I was like, you're in a dangerous place. You're in a dangerous place because never let the good comments and bad comments of people fuel you or affect you at all. It's a hard thing, of course. It's very hard, but for that to be fuel for you to continue doing what you're doing, when you get to a point where you're actually touching so many lives, the comments that are negative will be so much more. And is that going to be now fuel or is that going to be now it's going to diminish your fire? So if purpose isn't coming from within you, then most of the times you phase out and you find out that the ideas you have along that purpose when you're pitching it to people, especially people close to you, some will feel threatened, some will feel he's onto something, but let me not encourage this because I don't want to see them fall. So some people will try to protect you for the sake of your own sanity, but I think you have to be delusional to a certain extent when you're on that journey of doing something bigger than you, because most of the people can't relate. They've never been there. So when you want to get advice from someone in a specific field or someone who's above you, if they've not done what you're doing, or if they've not gone where you've gone, or you've gone where you want to go, there's no need to hear from them per se, because sometimes they will see what you want to do through their own insecurities and they'll project those things to you, and that will end up limiting you and belittling you. And that's one of the worst things to ever do when you're on that path of purpose. So I've said a lot, but I hope that helps in one way or the other.
No, it does a lot, a lot, a lot. And there's also a follow-up question in the chat. I'm wondering if we should do that one first before we give Emma a chance to speak, because I see his hand up.
Yes.
So in the chat, they say, what if your purpose doesn't align with your finances?
Mm, that's a good one. I I will say this because I've been called privileged so many times. I've been called privileged, I've been called ignorant, I've been called arrogant by everyone on social media when I talk about things with a very um clear perspective, because sometimes people can't fathom that the truth is that simple. Truth is, when you're starting out on a purpose that is bigger than you financially, you have to always look at what you have. What are your current resources? If you don't understand that you have a brain, you have something that you're good at, you could probably monetize that. Because for me, I was tired of going down the tradition of um, working a job and I'm not feeling like this is just dead. And I was privileged to have a job. I was privileged. So many people. In fact, there's an event I'm speaking at, and the reason why that event started is because a man killed himself because he could not find a job after he had all A's in high school. He went into university, graduated honors. He was on a job hunt, and he was the firstborn of his own family, and the pressure got to him because through that job hunting, he lost his head and he couldn't handle the pressure and he took his life. And that's something that moved me, because I was like, so many of us are privileged to be having jobs, first of all. But some of us, even though we're qualified to get those jobs, especially even in Kenya, qualifications don't mean much, if we're being honest. And that's another topic in itself. But there's people who are willing to invest in you, and you have to be able to pitch yourself and instill belief. And you first of all have to operate in the belief of what you're doing, because if you come to someone and you don't believe in what you're doing, most of the times they'll pick onto that and they'll be like, you know what, I wish you well, but I'm not willing to invest in you. And it's okay to be turned down by people, but I am very much in the sense of I'm radical with my requests. Because some people don't realize the only reason why you don't get what you want is because you're not asking it rightly. You're not framing what you want in a way that is actually hard to say no. So that's one of the things you also have to learn when you're doing things beyond your capacity in that moment. Look for ways you can serve what I call value for value exchanges within my friends. Like when I'm doing a podcast and let's say it costs 10K to book the studio because I know the person and because they will increase value because I'm in that specific space. We call it value for value exchanges, and they'll give me a pro bono or we'll just sort something out. You know what I mean? So it's all about seeing what you can serve someone else instead of just coming and saying, "Hey, I need this." So try navigate that through the lens of what value do you actually have to offer? What are you going to give someone? Specifically, when I did my first sports event, I did Kenya's first 1v1 football tournament here in Nairobi. I got it from the inspiration of Top Bowler, which is in the UK. I'm sure you guys know. And I got Cold Stone as vendors. I got this really good restaurant called the Blackwood, and I got this bank called Finger Bank. And I was no one else got those connections except me. And just approaching these guys, I say, listen, this is my tournament. I'm doing this. I'm starting it off. But if you believe in this, and they came and some of them even sponsored the event. So it's all about framing things in a way that's very hard for someone to say no. I hope that helps the question.
Yeah, it really does. Thank you so much for that response. I feel like, and also thank you so much for that question. Um, it's a very real question because I think we tend to think very big picture things, forgetting that every big thing we see once started out as a small idea and incremented its way up there. So moving on, our next question, Emma, would you like to share your question?
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Arinda. I actually got to know this event through your IG, and I've seen some common Ugandan names. I'm originally from Uganda. I'm currently based in Toronto as a graduate student at U of T, and I'm just loving the quotes and the inspiration Moni is sharing. My question is, could you share your insights on what makes a compelling wife for a life purpose, and how can someone ensure their purpose deeply resonates with both their passions and the world around them? Why I'm asking that is because sometimes people pick purposes and a why that does not deeply resonate with them, or just because of what they think the world wants out of them. But at the end of the day, they just find that actually they didn't really want that. It was because maybe parents, family, and other people are pushing something out of them, and it doesn't deeply resonate with their persona. Thank you.
So wait, what was the first question you asked? Sorry, I didn't get the first question.
Let me paste it on the chat. So your insights on what makes a compelling wife for a life purpose, and then how can someone ensure that their purpose deeply resonates with both their passions as individuals and the world around them.
That's a lovely question. So for me, when I was starting off, I had a friend of mine who he was his, those guys you just call uncle, but they're not really uncle. And he's a successful businessman in this country. And he was giving me these business plans and ideas, and I were like around football, my passion. And I was hearing him, and I was even trying to make certain things happen, but it led to nothing because it wasn't from me. You know what I mean? Like that didn't come from me. Like one thing that I've noticed with even being someone who helps people with purpose is people come to you with so many things, so many ideas, so many like topics to talk about. I'm not even quali. Some people have asked me like certain questions about politics. I'm like, I don't care about politics. I'm not gonna lie. That's not my field. Thank you for asking, but I'm okay with saying I don't have the answers to certain things because that is not necessarily what made me start. What made me start is connecting with people on a deeper level because I first understood a problem. When I was starting off, I knew what it was like to not have someone to talk to about deep things, about many questions. I knew what it was like to have so many desires but not know where to start. I knew what it was like to not, you're not supposed to be broke. You're not supposed to be someone who's struggling in this life because I knew I can't suffer in this life. And of course, you've experienced struggles as a young person and you know what those struggles are like. You're familiar with that. And you don't want, especially if you're thinking legacy or long term, you don't want to get to a place where you have a family and you're doing those same things with your kids. Your kids are experiencing the same life as you are living. So your purpose and your why must be bigger than you and has to have a legacy perspective to it. Because I love this verse in Ecclesiastes says, um, time and chance happens to everyone. And so you can have so many qualifications, you're wise, you're intelligent, you're strong, you're fast. You have all these things, but time and chance happens to everyone. And secondly, it also talks about being someone that dwells in the house of mourning than rather being in the house of pleasure. What that means, that parable, that proverb is basically understanding that at any moment you could literally die. There's nothing guaranteeing you'll be here tomorrow. That's a harsh reality not many people are are waiting for, or rather are able to face, because what is to guarantee you'll be here tomorrow? So that's something that I live by, is I have to live every single day like it's my last. Yes, it's a cliche thing, but my days, I pack my days with so many different things that I know will position not just me for now but me in the future. So I live as the person I know I will be in the future, and I know that the difference between me now and the difference between that person is just time. But I've already entered into that vibrational frequency of the person who I know will be someone of purpose, value, and impact. Because what you're doing now, are you able to sustain it for the rest of your life, for 20, 30, 40, 50 years? If not, it's just a side thing. But find that thing, that why, that will make you do. You can design your life in a way that makes you not feel like you have to struggle to wake up every morning. You know what I mean? Get that flame, get that why, that you're excited to wake up. In fact, sometimes you don't even have sleep. Because when I was writing my book, I didn't sleep for 4 days. I was just closing my eyes, ideas. It was just a whole world of like, this is what life is for. You know, so when you're creative or when you're someone who has like big ambitions, trust me, when you conceive that why, you will have fuel that's not normal. Like people wouldn't even understand why you're doing what you're doing at the intensity in which you're doing it as well. So I don't know if that answers your question, because I know you had like three questions in one, but I hope that helps.
Brilliant, brilliant. Before we move on to the queue of hands, I just want to direct our attention to a question by Veronica in the chat, which I don't want us to miss because the chat is on fire, guys. Please keep putting things in the chat. But how do you manage a season of waiting?
Mm. That's loaded. It's a short question, but it's loaded because for me, I think I mentioned this as I was speaking earlier. That that season of waiting to me was an opportunity and was a privilege, because I knew within myself I'm destined to go far. And this season where things seem dry as hell, like dry, like you know what I mean, dry. No opportunities. You're almost in that nobody phase. Like no one even, like if you were to die tomorrow, no one, like, oh, maybe your distant family would now come to it a week later or 2 weeks later. God forbid that's anyone's portion. That was a joke. But it's more about understanding that that season of you being known by no one is so precious. Like it's so precious, because when you're in that spotlight, when people are now invested in you, they want to hear your voice, they want you to, they want to, you're someone of value. Like your time is something that people will pay you for. You have to have taken that season of waiting effectively, because you'll expose yourself. So some of us want things when we don't realize our capacity for that thing we're asking for needs a season of waiting. You need to be in that season of, yeah, things are slow, things are not happening, and now things for me are just flying. Like it's a crazy thing how I'm living in a season of answered prayers, but it doesn't feel like it. You know what I mean? So you also have to have that, always have that posture of gratitude, that in that season where things are not going on for you, things are dry, be grateful, because God is giving you an opportunity to work on yourself. And if you're wise, you maximize that opportunity. And that season of waiting will be like, I wish I had more seasons of waiting. Obviously not, but if you know what I mean, you know what I mean.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think, yeah, and make sure we value that season of waiting. Next, Liaison, please Would love to hear your question.
Thank you, Alinda. Good evening, everyone. Hello, Muindi. You shared quite some very insightful bars.
Thank you,
Kept
brother.
repeating nuggets and nuggets over nuggets and taking notes of every single, well, not every single, but like quotes that really resonated with me. And I have two questions. The first one is, given the way that you spoke to us about accountability, you spoke to us about how our environment influences the decisions we make, the progress that we invest in our dreams. Um, how did you manage to build up your value proposition to help you achieve your long-term goals? Because you spoke about having short-term goals, you spoke about having long-term goals. So how did you craft your value proposition in a way that people are able to buy into your idea? And then the second question is, you spoke about knowledge and talent as being the key drivers to elevate one's vision towards achieving their goal when they don't have access to that financial capacity. Um, so let's say in a situation where an individual in this room this evening has been working year in, year out on planning their goals, planning their objectives, and unfortunately their plans haven't been working out or they haven't been achieving those mileages. What could they be doing wrong? And what habits can they develop to elevate them closer to their goals?
That's like five questions. So can you like if someone can write them down so I can see them as I'm speaking? Um, because I think you mentioned talents, you mentioned value proposition, you mentioned um working on something that's not working out. So okay, I think I have an understanding. But one thing I'll say is perspective is everything. It's literally about how you see things. And with me, my one of my greatest notice one of my greatest strengths is being almost being relentless in a specific sense that I know I will never be that person overnight. You know what I mean? When you know you're that person, where I get to a place where even after this, I always revisit my why. So to answer that question of when someone has a goal here and it's not working out, go back to the drawing board, revisit your why, reshape your strategies because a goal I like to set. I honestly don't lie. I have goals, but I like to set objectives. Like with my team for Motaji, we have seven people on the team, and I've said this, and this is an objective we have is to have 4 events this year that are impactful, that bring community together, and how that's gonna. I've not even discussed finances. I've just said this goal is going to happen, and based on everyone's strengths and abilities to network, people to innovate creatively, think about things, we can synergize together and make that goal happen. So it's very important to build an environment. For me, exactly like I ask you a question. Someone here may have a goal of wanting to become more spiritual, becoming more spiritually in tune to themselves. How are you gonna do that if you don't seek out the right knowledge, if you don't, first of all, get into a community that is talking about things that you want to learn about? So if you're interested in that, you'll not be effectively position yourself to achieve that goal if you don't set up the right systems or approach the right people. Because people are the biggest blessings that God will give you today. Let's be honest. You can have so much talent, so much potential, but until someone helps you pull that out, you will never reach that level of being that person that you know is very hard to resist. So for me, especially as a brother to another brother, if I'm being honest, your spiritual, your mental, and your physical, investing in those three things is the best thing you can give yourself. So it's certain things that you may not see in a physical sense, but you find out your aura begins to change. You're not necessarily investing in things that are tangible. Yes, you're reading books, you're learning the right content, but there's so much that's out there. You always have to, once you find that gem, once you find, let's say, that book, always revisit it. Don't be. I made the mistake of literally overloading and overstimulating myself, where I had to go on like a 2 month, I'm not reading nothing, I'm not listening to nothing, I'm just gonna exist. Because at that point I had listened to, before I honestly speak, when I was in my preparation stage, like 12 hours in the day were dedicated to just listening to podcasts. And this was for around 6 months. So by the end of those 6 months, my mind was literally blowing. I had so much information and I didn't know what to do with that. And so now I would now pray for God to sort of help me. If it's one person, speak to one person, that that person can sort of now understand where my mind is thinking. We can bounce back and forth. And then that one person turned to two, three, four, five. Then I had a community of 15. Then the community of 15 turned into a community of 70 people. Then it just grew and compounded. And now it's at a place where you almost have 100 people that I've selectively curated, that are all in the same fields of interest and want to be that person that they know will be a person of value. So it starts off with that small thing, that one person that you can tag along with and run to the ends of the world. So I think that if that answers your question and all the things you asked for, yeah, okay, it does. Yeah. So yeah, I hope it makes sense.
Thank you so much for that, Muli. So we have three more questions left. I'm going to start with Sean. We're trying to keep it brief just before we close so that we don't take any more of you guys' precious time. So Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that, Linda. And thank you so much, Muli, for joining us. Very nice to see you again. And yeah, it's been a wonderful session, very insightful. I apologize, I'm not able to turn on my camera, as I'm just, yeah, in the middle of a work day. I'm from Kenya, but I'm currently based in London. But my question for you, on basically sustaining the year's goals and some of the conversations that have been had around finding purpose and, navigating challenges, rejection, setbacks, and so on and so forth. Um, for as much as we are talking about beyond the hype during this early time of the year, February is also a time where some people have a lot of, what do I put it, peer pressure, yeah, to address a different part of their life, their romantic lives. Yeah. And my question is how you deal with navigating that alongside pursuing your purpose and how that interacts with, the other competing interests and things for your time at such a young age.
Yeah, beautiful question, and good to hear from you, brother. If you guys didn't know, Sean and I used to go to school together back in Nairobi, WNS. And Sean he's a weird guy. I mean, I was also weird, but I think we've both evolved and grown, and it's beautiful to see the man you're becoming as well. But for me, to just answer it straight, it's what are my priorities? It's just prioritizing the right things. It's like in a world where there's that literally distractions left, right, and center, your priorities, what is important to you, will always be at the top of your list. So if you are a man of pleasure and leisure and you love to chop life, nothing wrong with that. But you get to a point where you're drained more than you're filled. You know what I mean? So with especially in the month of love, it's like, is this going to fulfill me? Is this something that's just temporal, or am I building something long term? So for me, with my purpose and my perspective of life, I don't have time to waste my resources, waste my energy on something that's not gonna really, I guess it's sort of business minded, but I'm not gonna get a return of investment. I must be investing in something that will eventually grow its flowers. I think everything is a garden. People are gardens. So everything is a seed. So if I'm seeding and putting my seeds into a certain thing or a certain person, and I'm sowing seeds of positivity, I should expect something positive. However, if I'm just wasting my time, because time is precious, time is of the essence, and we all know this, there's that aspect of what is at the end of the day the priority. Once you get your priorities in order, then I think you're able to now chop life with a big spoon. But for me, I'm not yet at a place where I want to bring, let's say, we're talking about partners. I don't want to bring a partner on board where I know I can't give that person me. This is me. That person may not want that, but this is me. I want to be able to chop my person like with a big spoon, and that's something that I know at this point in time I will be doing. I'll be overstretching myself because I have things that are more important than that, and that's just something when you become sensitive to. You just know when your seasons of life are ripe, when there's still the seed, that the fruit is still growing, and when it's harvest time. So I hope that answers your question, but for me, it's just priorities.
Thank you so much, Muli. I'm conscious of time, but we do have two more questions. If you don't mind, do you mind if I go ahead and move
No,
forward?
it's all good. It's all good.
Amazing. So Anuna, please share your question.
Yeah, mine was more the practical aspect of publishing your book. So how was it finding a publisher? How was it the process of writing? Also writing something that would fill some type of knowledge gap as opposed to maybe pushing out something that is already out there, you know?
Yeah. The process was, to be honest, it started with a heartbreak, and that situation ended sourly. And I had to sit down and ask myself, what do I want out of my life, honestly speaking. And so when I did that, when I asked that question, I wasn't in the best shape. I think at that time I was like 83 kgs. Right now I'm 71. So you can see I had that initial heartbreak sparked something within me that took me to another dimension, and it was my fuel source. So what happened is I took a 2 month hiatus, went off the grid, cut like my social media off. I was really just on YouTube, because I think YouTube is it's like one of the best sources of information if you find the right things. And so during that process, I had certain non-negotiables. So I would set daily non-negotiables for my day. And one of them was saying a specific mantra over and over and over again. And that was just to feed my spirit and my soul. And so I'd say that. And after saying that specific thing, which I was just literally saying, I'm walking with the spirit of wisdom and creativity, because I felt like I want to be someone of intricate details, because wisdom is everyone has a certain level of wisdom, and then those people you hear, you're like, this is insane, you always need to have a book with. So I wanted that. And so 2 weeks into saying that, even when I was on my runs and everything, because I that 2 month hiatus, I lost 8 kgs, and that also birthed mortality, because I wanted to start something of value, because as a sports person, especially even in Nairobi, you don't have access to high quality clothes per se. You can either, I don't know if you know Nairobi, but you can go to like secondhand stores, or you can go to like stores in malls, and stores in malls you can get a t-shirt that I'm wearing for like 15,000, which is like, let's say, 150 euros. Or you go to a secondhand store, which this is like 3 euros. And it's like the secondhand stores are not in the best places. You don't feel safe. So I was like, there's no middle ground. So through that gap, I was like, I see so many people in the same situation as me, who are sports people and don't have access to these things. So in summary, that birth mortality. But the book, I got the desire to do the book after the 2 weeks of saying that mantra. This is something that not many people know, but I wouldn't lie, I noticed it in hindsight. I was like, when I started saying this, my desire started to change. And then I talked to my cousin who were in our gazebo, and I was just like, bro, I don't know why, but I feel like I should write a book. And then he was like, same. And then we both concluded we're too young. What do we know? And then after that, I wrestled with the desire, and I listened to this guy called Dan Cole, who's basically, he talks about a one-person business model of this new generation. If you don't know him, you should search him out. He's a decent guy. And as I was listening to him, he was talking about writing and how the importance of writing is for your business and everything. And what happened is, during that preparation stage, I went to like 3 journals. So I'd always be writing my notes, always writing the things that I've learned throughout my day. So literally, I'd have daily lessons that I've learned, and I'll write everything down. And so I opened my laptop and I just started writing. I didn't know where the book was going, to be honest. I didn't have direction of what I was talking about. I just said, you know what, let me just start talking about my journey. And the last sentence, after I pressed the stop mark or whatever it is, and the period, I got the name of the book and the subheading in that specific moment. And so it's just a book written by faith. It took me 4 days to write the content. So as I said, not 4 days, I wasn't sleeping. So it was just me and myself and my laptop and the notes that I had, and I was just compiling all of those things into certain things that I was curious about and lessons that I've learned. And one of the last chapters, I talk about learning how to rule your spirit, which is it's something that's not often talked about, but it's something, once you do learn, I think you'll never see life the same way. I think there's certain levels of what people call wokeness, but once you touch that level, I think you can't see things the same way. So that publishing process, because I knew someone here in Nairobi, who had written a book and had a book, whatever. The book, so there was someone, one of my auntie's friends had a book company, but they were very expensive. And then I went to another company that does books for like Christian books and spiritual books, and they had it was a way better rate and better quotation. So I was like, you know what, but let me do that. And we published 100 books for the first whatever, and now I just keep on republishing as the books keep going. So yeah, I hope that sort of answers your question.
Brilliant, brilliant. I hope we're seeing some books soon. Anuna, after that question, we're waiting on your book.
Yes, come on. I've spoken to like as I've written this book, out of that book, two people have written their own books. One of them has written two books based on that book. So that person read my book I think he said 5 times, and the inspiration just kept on happening. And I had a conversation with him. I said, "You've been through a lot. You have wisdom. Write a book." And he wrote two books after 3 months of talking. So it's the grace for authors is here. If you want to write a book, go for it, man.
Amen. Okay, the final question is a question Helen sent to the chat, which has to do with self-doubt or fear of failure. What advice do you have to people dealing with those things, and how do you stay motivated when you tend to feel stagnant?
Yeah, so I wrote a chapter in the book called Facing Doubt, which is literally chapter 2. While I was writing the book, I had doubts, and I was like, oh, who am I? What am I even doing writing a book at this age? And I was 22, 21 at the time. Yeah, I was 21 at the time when I was writing it, 2023. And I think one thing you have to see is your perspective. It all goes back to your perspective, because how you view failure will shape or make how you actually live in this world today. Because to me, failure is an illusion. I don't think I can actually fail. I think everything is feedback to refine and to tackle in a way that I can now effectively implement a successful strategy. So with facing doubt, we also have imposter syndrome amongst that. So facing doubt is you will always have doubt there. Let me not lie. Doubt will always be there. However, as you build and your credibility grows and you start, charting your own resume of success, the voice of doubt begins to be lesser and lesser and lesser. And you find that now you have that sense of confidence that yes, I've accomplished this, so I sort of can keep on going. So that initial battle with doubt, it will be so loud, but you need to be bold enough. It's simple things, just be bold enough to do it and see how the heck that happens. So for me, when I was saying this in a speaking engagement I had in January. If I do have a desire or an idea, the time period between the conceptualization of the idea to the actualization of it, I try and make it as thin as possible, because it's that spark when you get the idea is a sort of like fuel if you know how to channel it. So with the book desire, the desire was there, and when I finally said yes, that flame took me and made me finish that whole project. So anyone who has that same frame of how they work and how they relate with things and actualize things, it's very important for you to sense when you have a specific season of you have the ability and the access to do this specific thing. So it's all about like weighing where you are. So if you have something that's huge, like huge, you may not necessarily understand how to handle that, and that's where doubt will come in, and it will have its right, it will be justified. Doubt will definitely have its stance. So example, you want to be a billionaire, but you've never really handled, let's say, 200 to $500,000 or euros. You're not in the capacity to be able to handle such a thing, because it can destroy you. So it's all about really understanding the ways you can effectively like challenge doubt face to face and effectively stack your victories upon it, and the voice of doubt will begin to become less and lesser.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Muli. This was such an exceptional conversation. I think the way you intertwine spirituality with your mental fortitude and your physical health, and just I think you're very interesting person to watch speak and engaging. I was tuned in the whole time. I'm sure I can attest the rest of the attendees as well. But thank you all so much for joining this webinar. We appreciate you so much. This concludes our first monthly Muktano. What a insane start to what is going to be an incredible journey. I think Muli has set the bar in heaven, quite literally. And we're gonna see, stay tuned to upcoming events, our next monthly mkutano and fireside chats coming up. Connect with us on Instagram, join our WhatsApp community and email us or follow Muli on Instagram. Those links are all in the chat. But aside from that, we are also looking for video editors. We're looking for graphic designers. We're looking for anyone who can has a specific skill set, whether media marketing, anything, who is willing to dedicate time to Tukue. We are young, but we're growing at a rapid rate, and we're looking for you to come and do something for us. And as we feed into tomorrow's youth. But otherwise, thank you again, Muli. This was a brilliant conversation. I look forward to connecting with you in the future, and I hope our guests feel like they've learned something.
Thank you for having me. This was there's a beautiful, beautiful platform. Please, guys, keep on doing what you're doing. You guys are going to the next level. I want to see you guys at the top. So cheers, guys. Thank you for having me. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day or evening, wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you again.